Picture yourself standing alone at the crossroads of your life. The air is thick with the fog of endless obligation, the noise of other people's expectations, the tyranny of social media comparison, the constant, low-grade hum of not enough. You feel the weight of 1,000 invisible chains, and yet, when you look down, you find the sword in your hand is dull, your own path obscured. You are technically free, perhaps, but your mind is shackled to external approval. Have you ever felt that profound, unsettling loneliness of being surrounded by people, but utterly dependent on their validation to feel whole? Have you ever sensed that the only thing standing between you and true, unshakable power is the habit of leaning on anything but yourself? We all face this shadow, this yearning to cut through the chaos and stand on our own ground. On Steel Mind, we're not talking about isolation, we're talking about the ultimate freedom, the unbreakable self-reliance forged by a man who mastered the art of being a lone warrior. Miyamoto Musashi, the Sword Saint, and his final, stark testament, the Dokkodo, or the Path of Aloneness. This isn't just an old samurai's list of rules, it's the 21 principles for tempering your inner weakness into a blade that never dulls. A mindset that can only be bent by your will, not the shifting winds of the world. One step, full presence, one fold, unbreakable edge. Let me tell you about Alex. Alex was 28, a graphic designer in a city that pulsed with opportunity, yet felt determined to crush him beneath its heel. He lived in a perpetual state of quiet, overwhelming anxiety. His struggle wasn't poverty or external threat. It was the paralysis of choice, the fear of being seen as less than, the deep-seated inability to trust his own judgment. Every design decision required a round of consensus from his team's Slack channel. Every life choice, from booking a vacation to buying a new piece of tech, was crowdsourced on social media polls. His posts laced with emojis begging for thumbs up. His internal monologue was a chaotic, second-guessing echo chamber. Do they like it? Is this the right move? What would people think if I failed? He was a talented artist, capable of bold, innovative strokes, but his steel mind hadn't formed yet. It was still a molten, easily poured mess, taking the shape of whatever mold the external world presented. He was constantly drained, seeking fuel from likes and affirmations, only to find the tank empty again by morning. His creative work felt hollow because it was crafted for others' tastes, not his own soul's truth. He felt the insidious grip of dependence, like a slow-moving vine wrapping around his core strength, but he didn't know how to wield the inner machete to cut himself free. On Steel Mind, we see this as the raw ore before the forge, full of potential, but untested in isolation. The breaking point came in the form of a major client presentation. Alex had an original, brilliant concept, a fusion of minimalist lines and bold color bursts that screamed innovation. But his colleague, Sarah, subtly steered him towards a safer, more conventional route, purely out of her own career anxiety about sticking to brand guidelines. Alex, accustomed to deferring, folded instantly, his brilliant idea vanishing like smoke in the wind. The safe presentation landed with a lukewarm thud from the client, who praised it politely but signed with a competitor the next week. That night, sitting alone in his cramped apartment, the city's neon glow mocking him through the blinds, the weight of his compromise felt suffocating. He wasn't just disappointed, he felt betrayed by himself, a hollow ache in his chest that no scroll through Instagram could fill. He was tired of being a supporting character in his own life, always one step behind his own vision. Scouring his bookshelf for some kind of anchor amid the dust and forgotten tomes, his eyes fell upon a slim, unassuming text, Musashi's Book of Five Rings. Tucked away at the end was the Dokkōdō, written just days before the legendary master's death in 1645. It wasn't the heroic battlefield tales of Musashi's 60 undefeated duels that grabbed Alex. It was the raw, unvarnished simplicity of the 21 rules, a blueprint for absolute final self-reliance, penned in the solitude of Regondo Cave. He read the first rule: accept everything, just the way it is. Wait, what? His mind, trained to fight, resist, and complain about every setback, balked. How can I accept this failure, this betrayal of my own talent? But the text wasn't about resigning to mediocrity. It was about accepting reality as the unyielding ground from which to strike, not the story he wished were true. No excuses, no blame on Sarah or the client, just the cold, hard fact of his own compromise. He decided to begin his own forging process right there, starting with one tiny micro-rep of the Dokkodo each day, tempering his edge in the quiet fire of solitude. Alex's journey began with skepticism, layered with the deep inertia of old habits that had become as comfortable as worn grooves in stone. His first tiny win was about Rule 4. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. He began a ritualistic practice he branded the forge of routine, the 60-second blade draw. After his morning breathwork, deep inhales, drawing in the crisp dawn air through his window, he would stand, spine straight like a bamboo in wind, and for 60 seconds, he would brutally, non-judgmentally assess the current state of his projects, his emotions, and his commitments, asking only, "Is this mine? Is this true to my way?" No social media check, no frantic email triage, just a minute of pure, distilled presence. His hand mimicking the draw of an invisible katana, he noticed the resistance immediately, the itch in his fingers to grab his phone, the mental fidgeting like a caged bird. But he held the line, breathing through it. Slowly, the silence started talking back, revealing patterns he'd ignored, how small approvals snowballed into creative suffocation. The real resistance mounted a few weeks later, when the vine of dependence tightened its grip. He was asked to lead a new, challenging project, a rebrand for a startup that demanded bold risks. The old Alex would have instantly searched for an external mentor, scoured Behance for templates to copy, or polled his followers for vibes. This time, he paused amid the buzz of his open-plan office, the hum of keyboards and coffee machines fading as he recalled Rule 7. Do not regret what you have done. He committed to his first design draft without showing it to anyone, without seeking a single external opinion. He felt a sickening lurch of anxiety, the fear of a blank page combined with the fear of being wrong, his heart pounding like war drums in his chest. What if it's garbage? What if they hate it? But he forced himself to treat his intuition as the final authority, retreating to a quiet corner cafe where the steam from his matcha rose like cave mist. He spent an intense day locked in focus, sketches flowing from his pen, unfiltered, raw edges and all. The final design was unconventional, a clash of asymmetry and subtle power that mirrored his emerging self-trust. When he presented it the next morning, he didn't preface it with caveats or apologies like, "I think this could work," but he stood behind it, ready to accept the outcome. Whatever it was, Rule 1 in action. The feedback was mixed. The CEO lit up with, "This is fresh, it's got edge," while a junior exec fidgeted, suggesting safer colors. The old Alex would have crumbled, rushed back to the drawing board, and pleaded for consensus in a frenzy of revisions. But the new one, forged in the heat of his own decision, simply listened without the old defensive armor. He didn't defend, he didn't fold immediately. He implemented the functional critiques, tweaking accessibility, while holding fast to the core vision that felt true to his way. Be indifferent to worldly possessions. Rule 19. Suddenly transformed from an ascetic notion into a powerful metaphor for indifference to external validation. Likes were trinkets, critiques were wind, neither defined the blade's sharpness. His self-worth was no longer a currency exchanged for approval. It was an internal forge, self-sustaining. In that moment, amid the conference room's fluorescent hum, Alex felt his steel mind begin to form, layer by resilient layer. The transformation wasn't instant, but gradual, like a master smith's 1,000 gentle folds under the hammer's patient rhythm. As the weeks turned to months, the Dokkodo wove deeper into his daily rhythm. He started living by Rule 16. Do not, under any circumstances, depend on a partial truth. He cut out the half-truths he told himself about his capabilities. I'm good, but not great enough alone. His limitations, I need feedback to shine. And the true cost of his compromises, it's just easier to agree. His focus sharpened like a whetstone on steel. His creativity returned, not as sporadic bursts, but as a steady flow, untainted by doubt. The anxiety, though never fully absent, was now a manageable fire that helped forge his actions, rather than an ocean that drowned them. He even incorporated Rule 13. Do not have a favorite weapon, applying it to his tools, not clinging to Adobe Illustrator as a crutch, but experimenting with hand sketching and even poetry for inspiration, broadening his arsenal. The wisdom of the Dokkodo isn't just the eccentric endgame of a legendary warrior who wandered Japan undefeated, dueling with wooden swords and living as a hermit artist. It echoes the timeless, Universal Principles of Mental Resilience. Musashi's 21 rules, written in the quiet stillness of Dokkodo cave overlooking the sea, represent the ultimate distillation of a life lived by the sword, a relentless pursuit of mastery that ultimately requires the master to rely only on his own technique and conviction, free from masters, dojos, or crowds. This resonates profoundly with Stoicism, particularly the teachings of Epictetus, who argued that true freedom lies only in mastering what is within your sphere of control, your thoughts, your judgments, and your actions, while accepting the rest as indifferent. Musashi simply made that sphere absolute. Never stray from the path of the way, Rule 1. This way is your own, carved by your blade, and anything external is, by definition, unreliable, a fleeting shadow on the cave wall. Scientifically, this deliberate decoupling from external validation is a profound act of self-directed neuroplasticity, rewiring the brain for autonomy. When Alex stopped crowdsourcing his life, he wasn't just changing his behavior, he was literally strengthening pathways in his brain. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and decision-making, becomes more robust and efficient when we practice autonomous choices, as shown in fMRI studies from the University of Rochester on intrinsic motivation. Research by Deci and Ryan reveals that when tasks are performed out of genuine self-interest and competence, rather than external rewards like approval, the resulting motivation is far more persistent, up to twice as enduring, and fuels higher quality performance and well-being. The act of choosing your own path, however small the choice, shifts your locus of control internally, making you less susceptible to anxiety driven by perceived external threats. Musashi's undefeated record in 60 duels? Neuroscience attributes similar invincibility mindsets to enhanced dopamine from self-trust, boosting prefrontal activity by 20–30% in high-stakes decisions. It is like a river carving canyons, not with fury, but with patient, consistent flow. You are building mental independence through consistent micro-reps of self-trust, folding layer upon resilient layer. To integrate the Dokkodo and begin forging your own path of unbreakable self-reliance, we can adapt Musashi's timeless discipline into practical, steel-mind-branded rituals that honor the lone warrior within. The first is the forge of routine, the 60-second blade draw. As Alex did, anchor the day's intention with pure solitude immediately after waking or after your first sip of coffee or tea, before any screen invades your space. Stand with spine straight like unyielding bamboo and spend 60 seconds with your inner blade drawn. Name one decision you must make today and commit to it based purely on your core values, regardless of what others might suggest or what algorithms predict. This is the non-zero day of self-trust, a micro-rep that builds the groove of independence, backed by Rochester's findings on how such autonomy rituals enhance prefrontal resilience over time. Next comes the practice of indifference, drawn from Rule 19. Be detached from desire your whole life long. For 1 week, cultivate radical neutrality toward external praise and criticism. Treat them as passing clouds, not defining storms. When you receive a compliment on your work, observe the dopamine spike in your chest, then let it pass, without chasing more through humble brags or polls. When a critique lands, listen for the actionable insight alone. Discard the emotional sting like autumn leaves, and remind yourself that the other person's judgment is their opinion, not your reality. Your self-worth is a fixed internal metric, not a negotiable price tag traded on the market of approval. This ritual, rooted in Epictetus's dichotomy of control, frees energy for creation. As studies show, intrinsic focus reduces cortisol by 25% in decision-heavy days. Then, cut the compromise cord, inspired by Rule 16. Do not, under any circumstances, depend on a partial truth. Identify the partial truth. You're currently living a half-hearted project sustained by inertia, a job you stay in for the wrong reasons like security over passion, or a relationship propped up by convenience rather than alignment. The next time you feel the urge to compromise your core integrity on a small matter, for instance, agreeing to a team idea you don't believe in just to keep the peace, stop in your tracks. Instead, state your truth clearly and kindly, accepting the short-term discomfort like a duelist's first strike for the long-term gain in self-respect. Musashi lived this by rejecting alliances that diluted his way. You can too, turning potential regret into forged clarity. Follow with the decision crucible, echoing Rule 2. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Your most important decision today, no matter how minor, from what to prioritize in your to-do list to how to respond to a friend's unsolicited advice, will be made without consulting a single person, book, or search engine. Trust your gut as the unerring compass it is meant to be. Accept the outcome without second-guessing, whether it's a win or a lesson. This strengthens your intuition muscle, the true weapon of the lone warrior. Much like Musashi's wooden sword duels, honed his edge through isolation. Finally, embrace the long view of no regret. From Rule 7, do not regret what you have done. At the end of your day, as the sun dips and shadows lengthen, look back without the whip of hindsight. Did you act with integrity? Did you trust your way? If the answer is yes, then harbor no regret, even if the outcome was poor or the path thorny. Failure is data etched on your blade, not condemnation carving wounds. Regret is the chain that locks you to the past, sapping the forge's heat. By cutting it, you free all your energy for the next step. Full presence. Unbreakable edge. Science from resilience studies at Harvard backs this. Non-regretful reflection boosts emotional recovery by 40%, turning setbacks into sharper strikes. The path of aloneness, the Dokkodo, is not a lonely road. It is the most direct road to self-mastery, where the warrior's cave becomes your inner sanctum. It teaches you that true resilience isn't found in a cohort of supporters or the echo of applause, but in the unflinching, quiet strength of your own conviction, honed through solitude's fire. That daily discipline, it multiplies your edge exponentially. Each tiny, autonomous decision is another layer folded into the steel of your character. Your output bolder, your peace deeper, your presence a force that commands without demand. Your steel mind, eternally sharp, becomes impervious to the petty storms of the world because its strength is internal, intrinsic, and non-negotiable. 6 months later, Alex's transformation had rippled outward like a stone skipped across still water. He left his design job, the vine of dependence severed at the root, and launched his own small, highly selective studio from a corner of his apartment now cleared of clutter, a space for his unfiltered vision. No longer seeking consensus in endless meetings, he sought clarity in solitude, collaborating only with those who amplified his way, not diluted it. His first client project, a rebrand for an indie bookstore, was pure Alex. Asymmetrical layouts evoking wandering paths, colors drawn from his morning fog walks. The client raved. Word spread through organic shares, no forced polls, and bookings trickled in steady, not frantic. Anxiety still whispered on tough days, like when a pitch flopped, but now it was a forge's spark, not a wildfire. He applied Rule 21, never be jealous, turning envy of successful peers into fuel for his unique edge. Kenji-like mentors appeared naturally, drawn to his quiet command. But Alex no longer leaned, he stood equal. He even took up kendo on weekends, the wooden shinai in his grip echoing Musashi's wooden sword. Each strike a reminder of the lone path's power. His work was bolder, his nights deeper in restful silence, and his presence once tentative now commanded rooms without a word. He learned that the ultimate freedom is realizing you are all the shelter you will ever need, all the validation your blade requires. The time for crowdsourcing your inner life is over. The moment is now to pick up your sword, accept the truth of your current position, dull or sharp, and commit to the path that only you can walk. Go forth and forge your self-reliance, one resilient fold at a time. If this forge lights your path, subscribe to Steel Mind for more blades against the chaos. We're here to temper that lone warrior within you. What's your first Dokkodo action, your first act of pure, internal self-reliance today? Share below, and let's sharpen edges together.